When was the antebellum?
Before the Civil War. Antebellum before the war, that's what antebellum is.
I would get like 80%.
Huh? And so that's when you get the whole thing about mass industrial revolution, necessity.
That's all I'm getting my voice.
Yeah, the first one. Yeah, so after Civil War, electricity, all the way up to the 20s.
Quick match, because we need to go through.
And the first one, that's where you develop capitalism. Second one, that's where you get corporation.
Just not the same.
Plus,
All that one. Standard match.
give me, I'll wait a couple minutes and then I'll answer any questions you have.
Yeah. Should we get?
But do you see what I claimed?
I don't
The portrait of, I forgot who it is. I don't know.
Twenty, Great Depression.
I think it's,
War, Cold War, Vietnam, and then we just kind of loosely lumped the 80s. We kind of, sometimes you see it called the New Gilding Age. Sometimes the conservative style. And then, yeah. But there might be a question after 2012, but they're rarely asked. Maybe a reference.
I thought it great.
Yeah, I don't know what they're gonna do
he won't read it
in a
though.
few years. It's,
But
would you,
And we can light up.
I'll give it another minute.
Yeah.
Levittown, rock and roll.
You're going to.
Yeah, was like.
Yeah, 1816, 1824. Basically, only the Republican Party, the Federalists died out. Yeah.
You can just like. Just look at that.
Just for an hour and then I go make a chance of clients.
Okay, Tim.
I will cover $5. $35. So you're only interested in 20.
Can I buy it?
If that, I mean, it's not, it's like 160. Back in the days, like,
Oh, they also need your assessments.
Are there any more questions? Oh, by the way, looking at these things, there are certain areas that they always, they have questions a lot. They always have questions about like British imperial policy. Remember, like the Trading Navigation Acts, all of that. Mercantilism. They usually have questions about this, and also the events leading up to the revolution. Yeah. Oh, yeah. All those are on there. Well, let's see. The events leading up to the revolution. I bet 1763. I know all the dates. That's a party trick. You name a date, I can tell you to the president. Free constitution. See, I won. Lincoln. Okay, so anything else? So, yeah.
On the first page, you do New France.
Could I what?
Can you get a New France?
Oh, New France on the first page. So Champlain gave first page, the right top, period 2. Champlain gave the French a claim to the Mississippi River. And so New France would be what is now Canada and all the way down the Mississippi River and all the way to Louisiana. And the big thing about New France, not that many French colonists came, so this is the important thing. There weren't as many taking the land of the American Indians. So they had better relations by default with American Indians, with the tribes along the frontier than the British colonists did who were taking their land. And that is why the French, all these colonial wars, but especially the French and Indian War, why American Indians allied with the French. Not that the French were nicer or better, there just weren't as many of them. Okay, any?
Chesapeake Islands.
That one is, that's a really big one. Because that's the southern colony, that's a slave system, that is the plantation system of tobacco, heavy cultivation of tobacco, and they're the ones who have that very class stratified system with the plantation owners on top, who formed the House of Burgesses, remember the first parliament, and then they needed workers. How do you get workers? Remember indentured servants? And that caused some problems because they have rights down the road for them. They caused some problems for the plantation owners. Thus, they started enslaving people, American Indians, and then they started importing African slaves. But this Chesapeake system, therefore, where they try to recreate England and have a small group on top and that plantation agriculture. So basically a slave kingdom, creating a slave kingdom. It's going to be radically different. So the economy is not diversified. It's reliant upon slave agriculture. In the north, much more diversified economy, and therefore more population would eventually go there. So another one. Yeah. That's another one when they, so Andrew Jackson, they have questions about it. There's always like a short answer question. Sometimes there might be an essay question about that. And remember, Jackson really stood up for that idea of Jacksonian democracy. So the bank will answer your question.
It's a multi-headed beast.
Yes, that's exactly right. The bank. The corporation, the banks were the beast. And this was part of his, as he saw, helping the common man. The bank was his elite, the national bank was his elite organization that was controlling money, controlling currency for their own financial gain, especially debt. So Jackson did not, but Jackson vetoed the bill to recharter the bank as a symbol against entrenched elite power. As entrenched elite power. And this would be a fight, therefore, with the brand new Whig Party that wanted this strong national bank. And out of that, the bank cut back on currency, creating deflation that would directly lead to the Panic of 1837, confirming all of Jackson's fears. So it's a big part of this fight for democracy. Is there another? I'm not going to do all of those things. I'll pick a few, but yeah, I'm sorry. I can answer a couple of them. I'm sorry. Give me one. Business cycle, that's a big one. The business cycle is endemic in capitalism. And what it is that when there is a boom, when the economy is doing well, that always leads to overproduction. Overproduction and overspeculation. Where's it at? Page 6. Oh, very top, yeah. Overproduction. And overproduction eventually will lead to cutbacks, layoffs, and then, and that's what we call a recession. And then the bubble will burst in speculation, leading to a panic, a bust. And in a bust, people lose faith in the system, unemployment goes up, and something is required. It's almost always some kind of government action to get demand going again. And once demand gets going, that will eventually lead to more production, and eventually banks start loaning money again, and they get out of the bust. And the big thing about that is, therefore, get out of the bust. It starts with overproduction and overspeculation, but it requires something to stimulate demand. And that is also known as the inflationary curve as it goes on. A very quick loop by cycle. Oh, and this is endemic with capitalism. This is endemic. Because that never-ending desire for profits and market share. Oh, one more thing I almost forgot. The big always benefit if they survive the bust, because then they can scoop up competitors. They get bigger. If they don't make a bunch of bad business decisions. Yes. Island hopping, page 8. That was the American. I'm jumping right in. Maybe I should let you turn the page. I know that's kind of reasonable, Mike. See ya. No problem. Island hopping, page 8. That was the American strategy to avoid strongly held Japanese positions, Japanese islands, hop over them, attack hopefully lesser defended islands with an air base, and move on across the Pacific. And so that would be the strategy they would use. But remember, these islands are even the lightly held, the so-called lightly ones. The Japanese will fight to the bitter end to take as many Americans with them so they can negotiate a peace. So, examples, like eventually, you'd have everything from Guadalcanal, think of ones I mentioned in class, like Guam, Iwo Jima, Okinawa. There are another. Anyone, I'll be glad to answer. And you think about the events leading up to the Civil War is a good one. The Industrial Revolution, the first Industrial Revolution, coal, steam, capitalism before the Civil War. The second Industrial Revolution, electricity, internal combustion engine after the Civil War. Yes.
I was gonna ask about the cases on which are able to solve this.
Not a bad thing to mention again, even though I talked about in class. This is the Warren Court, the most liberal court, best known for the Topeka. Brown versus the Topeka Board of Education. I know I put down Topeka versus the Board of Education. I'm over it. I'm moving on. It should be Brown versus Topeka Board of Education. So, Engel versus Vital said no enforced school prayer. Griswold versus Connecticut, people have an implied right to privacy. And that was one of the most important issues for women's rights. The whole thing was about can women have access to birth control. And Miranda decision that people must be, or anybody who is arrested must be informed of their rights of habeas corpus. Thus the Miranda. Reading about, they literally used to call them the Miranda rights. They would have the right to remain silent. Yes. Dawes Act, 1887. That was the idea of the turn America. The thought was American Indians will be turned into, literally, they said, white farms. Near the bottom, is that right? Oh, it's on the top. I'll slow down. I'm sorry. Hopefully, this has been on there a lot. This is a big. Of course, me saying that, it won't be. I'm sorry. Oh. So I just tell you, the idea was to turn American Indians to small farmers, taking them homestead. It was a disaster, and it turned into non-reservation members owning about 50% of reservations and such high poverty on the reservation. Is there another one? Yes. So first thing, what? Yeah, the Great Awakenings. And the first one is that on page 1? Yeah, Jonathan Edwards was one of the big leaders of it, but it was a change in religion that happened in the 1730s and 1740s. And the big thing was go against the very stifling nature of the churches at that time and to break into more emotional nature of the church, and ministers called charismatics would appeal to the people with the idea to members about saying, get away from the stifling hierarchy of the old church. And it was a more egalitarian, equal church. And it spread like wildfire. But the other part is this. It was a reaction against the Enlightenment too. Not just the stifling churches, but this idea that you could come up with natural laws for society, and that really scared people. The Great Awakening had a big influence on the American Revolution. And the Second Great Awakening, is that on the bottom of page? How about the top of page 4? And that was a direct result of the Industrial Revolution. All the insecurities of the wage system and capitalism, all the insecurities led directly to people trying to find some solace or comfort in religion. basically trying to look at the spiritual world because the world they're in is so terrifying. And so, with this, the Great Awakening was also very emotional. People would like quake and shake in ecstasy during services. It was very fire and brimstone. A lot of tent services with traveling ministers would go around the country, and they dealt with people's fear over the new economy. With the new economy that was so scary. And basically, one of the key messages was this. This world here, material world, scary and frightening. But what's more important? The salvation. So it was a lot of heaven and hell, fire and brimstone. You see elements of this coming back again in like the teens and then the fundamentalist wave of the 1920s. Yeah. Enlightenment, this idea, page 4, 3, 1. It's in here. The Enlightenment. Page 1. Yeah, near the bottom. And the Enlightenment it's tied very closely to the scientific revolution. And the idea is they could take the laws like the new scientific laws that were dictating the world, like Newton, and they could take these natural laws and develop them for society. So we could figure out natural laws. And so some of the best examples would be John Locke, with an idea that would become the foundation of the Declaration of Independence, that governments are created to defend rights, and they can overturn governments if they overturn those rights. And the most famous student of the Enlightenment in America was Benjamin Franklin, whose Poor Richard's Almanac become very well known. He was a scientist, very much a Renaissance man. Oh, one more thing about the Enlightenment. The Enlightenment, this weird combination of the Enlightenment's fingerprints are all over the Declaration of Independence and the American Revolution. And ironically, the Great Awakening, which is kind of the opposition, is all over it too. Is there another? Hey, let me keep going. Yeah, I go a few more. Page 6. Okay, one thing about that, I don't think they've had much about the populists or the progressives in a while. I don't know what that means. Let me do the populists first. They're very close. Yeah. But the populists were literally from the ground up. These were small farmers, and they tried to appeal to working people for the problems that farmers had. And I can't find it yet, the Populist Party. And this was a reaction to capitalism and the inequalities of capitalism. And so in Omaha in 1892, their platform would set the stage. Eventually, you could see the populist platform becoming the basis of liberal economics. It was such things as we need antitrust, we need monopoly, they wanted to create more, they wanted inflation, which they would dub eventually free silver. They wanted regulation of the economy, more control, especially of railroad rates. And they wanted more democracy, things like direct election of senators and women's rights. So that is the Populist Party. But it was very much working people going up. And so it was a movement of Democrats and Republicans. Democrats and Republicans who felt that the other party was leaving them behind. And eventually they would become molded into more of the Democratic Party. Progressives, where we have progressives, down a little bit more at the bottom. Progressives are different because progressives are middle-class reformers. These are people who are benefiting from capitalism. They like capitalism and want it to continue. And so they want reform of capitalism. Oh, I almost forgot, both of them though were fearful of revolution. If we don't reform capitalism, there'll be a revolution. And so what they said was, what are we at? Progressives. They want regulation, especially antitrust. They want government by experts. They wanted to destroy the political machines because they thought they were stifling the political system. And, let's not get too complex on this. Let's make sure we get the big thing though they wanted was, they thought they could regulate the economy to avoid the chance for a revolution. So that's why they're gonna want things like antitrust reform, they're gonna want things like stronger regulation of the railroads, et cetera. Oh, almost forgot. Also, they wanted women's rights. And so they thought they could make a better society. Women's rights, even though they didn't fight that hard for them when they actually took up power, I should add, we could make a better society, so a lot of progressives were prohibitionists. Prohibition. Let me answer a few more, or are you done? A few more, or are we done? Does anybody have a question? Right now, I'll answer any question you have. Any question? Anything? That's a good one. The jungle. That's actually a really good one. So, we have that page 6. Where we at? Jungle FDA. I got it. Okay. The Jungle was a book by Upton Sinclair, and he was a socialist, even though he was trying to lead to a socialist rebellion. He showed not only the mistreatment of workers in these big factories, but he also showed how to cut corners because of cutthroat competition. So the big thing is because of cutthroat competition, companies are putting out really inferior products and mistreating their workers. But middle-class readers didn't care so much about the workers because they figured them and their kids weren't going to have these jobs. Like the majority of Americans have. They cared that they're eating this slop. And this would make the argument better than anything else for the progressives. And this would help lead to the Food and Drug Administration that would begin to do a little bit of regulation on food and drug, not a lot, but also a meat inspection act. It'd be some of Roosevelt's biggest achievements, but it was pushed by the jungle. I forgot one thing, add one more thing. Even though he wasn't a journalist, he would become the best known of these people, journalists who influenced the progressive era called muckrakers. Muckrakers. Yeah, I can't believe how much we've covered. I don't know what the other. Oh, one more thing. Don't forget the short IDs. Don't forget. Even though put a like before you start like letter A, put a little parentheses A, then write it out, but make one big paragraph of all 9 sentences. Don't ask me why. They were graded a little bit better for you if you do that. And you'll have some choices on that, but you pick your short ID. But let me tell you a couple things really quick. Let's say you can only come up with 2 and you have C, you're not sure. Hey, it might happen, right? What do you do? Panic and run out, right? Yes. Throw your computer down, make a big scene. Okay, let's say it's about the progressive era, but the question, the little prompt is asking you something about you come up with this, and you're like, I don't know. What do you do? Come up with something close in the progressive era. Come up with something close. Come up with another thing, even though it doesn't directly answer the question, come up with something close. Give them a reason to give you a couple minutes. Make them think, oh, this is a good answer. They must have misread it. That's my point. Now, if it happens, it could happen on parts of your longer DBQ. If you're not sure, get close. Get to the error. Get close. Even if it's not exact, or you're trying to come up with more, like your own facts, even if it's not exact, still use it. Get close. Get something close. Give them an excuse. Unless they're a psychotic, the people grading it want to help you. They want you to get it. Now you notice I did not tell you that until we were done here, but I guess you probably already done that in class. I did in college a few times. Give them an excuse. Now let's hope that doesn't happen very often, but if it does, whatever. It's one part of the test. I'm doing well on the other part. I'm going to come up with something. All right. Oh, and what's the most important thing? 4 hours. Just don't quit forgetting. What? Have fun. Just have fun. Just remind yourself how much fun you're having. Stay up all night. Yeah. Stay up all night. Lots of sugary food. And then maybe have a big turkey sandwich before you go take. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
I hope that.
I'm gone.
It'll be on the big. And it's online. All of them. Oh my God, look at the game. No, I don't get this done. Page.
Well, what one is?
I mean, 1914 to 1918.
Yeah.
You know what? If you can't figure out the exact date, you're not.
For the short answer.
You want to just say the teams. Exactly.
Yeah, I think that I'm trying to get like a sense of times.
If you can find me in there, then I'll put stuff in that.
Short answer.
I've noticed it's like.
It kind of gives you something to put. Thanks.
So I would give like a short answer.
Like fall off from this time to this time. That's why I'm really trying to heavily check it.
Yeah.
Do that.
And that's why, I try to put in the dates in to give you that stuff, but there's a lot of dates. If you just get the basic era, you're in good shape. All right, I have to go eat dinner. Does anyone have a test tomorrow? Darn it. Goodbye, everybody.
I feel like the AP Johnson a lot of time.
Yeah, no, what's that?
Like the AP Johnson all the time.
Yeah, it's the same amount of time, but the test is significantly smaller than, let's say, this or AP Euro. It's so much smaller. And there's not as much information.
Yeah,
I'm not saying it's easier, but it's just not.
Oh, like 50 extra minutes in my multiple choice, but I went through my answers 3 times.
Yeah, the students in my special topics class were telling me about that. Because we had an hour, we're sitting there.
Everybody was just sitting there.
Yeah, and you just gotta sit. Most people get done in this one pretty fast, but it's a little more patience. All right, see you tomorrow. Somebody will be. Yes.